Welcome back to AI for Founders. I'm Ryan Estes. Today's episode starts with the problem every founder secretly wrestles with. The future is moving faster than your product roadmap. Models change monthly, competitors ship weekly, and half the AI space seems to be guessing their strategy on the fly. But what if prediction wasn't a parlor trick, but a real capability? And what if companies who master it don't just survive the AI boom, they run the table? That's exactly where we're going today with Ben Turtel, founder of Lightning Rod AI, company beating frontier models at forecasting the real world. Using messy data, no humans in the loop, and a training method inspired by how humans actually learn. If you're a founder, CEO, builder, or operator trying to understand where the puck is going in AI, how to build a defendable product when software is collapsing to zero, what predictive AI means to your roadmap, your team, and the way you make decisions, this conversation is built for you. By the end of this episode, you'll see the future of AI through a totally new lens, and you may walk away with the most important strategic insight for the next 5 years. And if you want to think smarter than the timeline, subscribe to the newsletter at aiforfounders.co. It's where the real playbooks actually show up first. Every week, I will break down the founders, experiments, and breakthroughs shaping this entire ecosystem so you can build with unfair clarity. Join 25,000 founders who don't wait for the future, they build toward it. Sign up at aiforfounders.co. And if this episode stretches your brain in a way you didn't expect, do me a favor, leave a review so other founders can find the show before their roadmap catches fire. This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster, the podcast booking service trusted by hundreds of founders and the one I personally run. Here's the simplest truth in B2B. The fastest way to drive demand, authority, and deal flow is to get in front of the audiences who already care about the problem you solve. And there's nothing that rivals the trust of podcast audiences. Kitcaster puts you, the founder, the expert, the storyteller, directly onto the world's top podcasts in your category. SaaS, AI, venture, health tech, climate tech, fintech, all the techs, we've booked more than 35,000 interviews and helped founders generate millions in pipeline just by telling their story on the right shows. If you're building something real, if you want to strengthen your category position, or if GTM depends on trust and authority, podcast guesting is the highest ROI channel you're not using yet. So if you want your message in front of the right ears, apply today at kitcaster.com/application. Let's get you booked on the shows your future customers already listen to. That's Kitcaster by Moburst. Ben, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to talk to you for multiple reasons. We're going to talk about your product, but I'd like to start with a great quote I saw, and maybe you could unpack it a little bit for us. So you said, every decision is a prediction problem. That's a provocative framing. So what exactly do you mean by a prediction problem?
Yeah, I think when people think about prediction, we tend to think of these really niche use cases, right? Like professional forecasters predicting political outcomes or geopolitical risk, things like that, right? But at the end of the day, every decision really is a prediction problem. You choose A over B because in your mind, you have a model of what path A is going to lead to, what path B is going to lead to, and you think path A is better. You predict that the outcome of A is better, and your decision reflects your ability to predict what those two paths will lead to. And this also just applies to just how we think about like the world, right? Like science itself is about prediction. Your theory only holds water if it helps you predict from one observation what's going to happen next, right? And I think this is a principle that hasn't been pulled in quite enough to the way we're training LMs today, and there's a lot more that we could do with it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about predictive AI because ultimately, I'm jazzed about a lot of stuff, but that realm, is really what kind of piques my interest. Now, prediction is probably a uniquely human experience, and maybe not exactly, but I think it gives us a biological advantage against the saber-toothed cats. I know if I'm out hunting, that like chances are if those cats are, in the rut or whatever, like I probably don't want to mess with them. So you're predicting to give you better outcomes based on that. Some people might call that anxiety, right? Because you're projecting into the future. Now, anxiety gets a bad rep because we're all riddled with it, but like the biological origin of that has a lot of evolutionary benefits. So, maybe if we're thinking about LLMs, like how can LLMs help us predict the future? And this is really at the core of your company, which is lightningrod.ai. So kind of frame it out for us.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way that you're framing that. I think the place to start is, the way we train LLMs today requires labeled training data, right? So you either need to show the AI examples of what you want it to do, or you need to at least give it problems where you know the right answer, so you can check the answer, right? And the question is, why don't humans need labeled data to learn, right? We just move through the world and we're constantly making predictions about what we expect to happen next. And when we feel surprised, that's because we expected something and that's not what just happened, right? If I walk into a room and there's a guy sitting there with a clown face, I'm surprised because I predicted something other than that when I opened the door, right? And we're constantly updating our beliefs about the world just by moving through the world and realizing when our predictions are right and when they're wrong and making our world model a little bit better every time, right? And AI doesn't learn that. It needs this curated training data set to learn. So our core insight was basically, can we make training LLMs a bit more like the way humans learn?
LLMs specifically.
Well, it really could apply to any AI, but today, LLMs are all the rage, and the way most of our frameworks are built are centered on LLMs.
Okay, I'm going to pitch a product to you, and I want to know if Lightning Rod can make this for me. If this is kind of, it could be way off base. But okay, let's say in the future, the recent future, 5 years from now, the LLMs know that it's going to be my son's birthday, and they know that like for my son's birthday, he likes to get 3 giant cheese pizzas from Little Caesars. Now they also know that I can't eat at Little Caesars because it 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 basically ruins my entire day. It could ruin 2 days. Now, not while you're eating it. Now, I love Little Caesars pizza, but it will like hit me like a tranquilizer dart right in the neck. Now, but it also knows that I'm powerless against the fumes of Little Caesars pizza, and I will tell myself, maybe this time it'll be different. So knowing all those things, what it's going to do is preemptively, 24 hours, it's going to give me a microdose of some Ozempic or something to curb my my desire for Little Caesars. It's going to know all this ahead. I'm thinking I'm not eating Little Caesars, but then once I get there, I'm going to look at that pizza. I'm going to be attracted to it. But because my Apple Watch injected me with the GLP-1s, then I'm going to probably abstain. Now, can you make this product for me?
Yeah, I mean, I think, that is probably a little bit of a ways off. But I think where you're going with this is exactly why we think this is so powerful, right? When you think about like the way humans make decisions, we only have so much focus. We only have so much attention, right? So
Yeah.
you're really deciding between the couple of options that pop into your head at any given moment. And it's even hard to think ahead to like, I'm going to be at this birthday party and this is going to be the situation. And so this is what I'm going to do to prepare for it, right? Only really, type A organized people think about those kind of things in advance for the most part. AI doesn't have those limitations, right? So if AI was good at constantly imagining every possible scenario that might happen and how that might work out for you or how that might, screw things up for you and could make decisions on your behalf or at least, tell you, hey, this is an option you might want to consider. I think that would be really powerful. And that would be a lot more powerful than us having to go to the AI with our questions that we think of, right? It's better if it's constantly measuring all these paths and telling us which ones we might want to consider.
Yeah. But, the one thing, and that's why I made the case study so that it's non-consensual. It's going to just inject me largely because because it knows me well, but also because you're kind of coming from a platform of no humans in the loop. So like where ultimately do we want autonomy to like be like, hey, check with me first. I'm gonna let you know. Or we're gonna be like, no, I trust you. You let me know what's up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a question that's probably a bit beyond my pay grade. Where we are is we're helping developers and teams create high quality training data for their AI models in this way, right? Where there's no humans in the loop, but it's also not synthetic slop where it's garbage in, garbage out. To take that to the next level and start making some moral decisions about how much that AI should be controlling my decisions. I don't know if I'm your guy for that.
Well, and I have to take a pause now because see, I get really excited when I start thinking about predicting the future and robots and AI. I jump straight to like some kind of like robotic, injection from your Apple Watch. Let's back up a little bit. So what we're talking about, not the near future, we're talking about today. So what folks need now is they need their data basically arranged in such a way that it can fit LLMs the best and they can utilize it in a productive way. So talk a little bit about exactly like who's your kind of like best customer and what are the best use cases and case studies that you found for Lightning Rod?
Yeah. So today it's hard to get high quality training data for your AI models, whether you want to train your own model or fine tune something, or even just evaluate how good a model is for your use case.
Yeah.
And most teams building with AI today, they don't actually struggle with the models or the compute anymore. The bottleneck is this high quality training data. That's what's hard. And there's already a big industry around this, right? So there are a handful of multi-billion-dollar companies like Scale AI and Labelbox or Snorkel. But what these companies do is they're paying humans to label data at scale for you, to put together these data sets for you. And they work with all the big AI companies. But this is slow and it's expensive, and it's really not an option for individual developers or for smaller teams, right? So on the other hand, you have synthetic data. You can use AI to generate a ton of training data, but it's really hard to get AI to produce information that AI already doesn't know, of course, right? You're not adding anything new that you're teaching the AI with, right? So it's a garbage in, garbage out scenario.
Yeah.
Our unique insight is that we created a method to create what we call grounded training data directly from your messy data. So every company already has these streams of data that have a lot of gems within them, right? So if you gave me access to like your company's Slack, right? Your company's Slack probably has every important thing that happens to your company within the Slack, right? Every big customer that you close, every product feature that you want to launch, there's probably a record of that. If an AI model could predict what's going to happen tomorrow in your Slack channel, it probably understands your business and your customers and your product really, really well.
Yeah.
So what we do is we make it easy for you to take these kind of messy internal data sources, whether it's a pile of PDFs or your Slack messages or your emails or whatever, or to find data like that on the open web, like from news or from just public domain documents and things like that, and transform that into high quality training data that you can get AI to do what you're looking to make it do it.
Amazing. Okay. And then it predicts, what is it predicting then?
Yeah. So, I mean, one core insight here is basically that the nature of real world data is chronological, right? So most things happen at a point in time. So if you have internal documents, they tend to be timestamped, right? Or if you want to predict something that happens in the news or understand a domain that has real world information, right? You typically have a source of data that happens in time, that with chronological timestamps, right? So we basically train AI by playing this game of from point in time A, can you predict what's going to happen in point in time B? And we can do this over and over again over all of your messy data. And by doing this, we kind of force the AI to really learn what are the causal factors here that are going to tell me what's going to happen at the next time step, right? And if the AI gets good at this, you have an AI that really understands what you want it to understand.
Interesting. Okay. And so this is built on top of the LLM model. So do you first decide on like, we want to use Grok or we want to use Claude, we want to use Perplexity, we want to use OpenAI? Is that kind of the first step?
We do use AI models in kind of playing this game and generating this data at different points in the process, but we kind of make it really easy for you to swap out whatever models you want to use. So typically if companies we're working with are training their own model, they're using one of the open source models, often like the Quen models, or different smaller, 14 billion to 70 billion parameter models that are open source. And we'll use a combination of things generated by those open source models and questions and answers generated from these bigger frontier models to put together the perfect data set.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe a case study that would be appropriate for the audience. We're all founders here. And one thing we all have is the speed and pace of AI, evolution is such that like every quarter you really have to reevaluate your product. Like, hey, do I have a moat here? Do I have something sellable? Like what's going on? The talk that, software is basically reduced to zero. Like there's so much fear. So that will lead us to be like, okay, what's the next thing? What's my next idea? What do I need to do next? So if I'm coming to Lightning Rod AI, my data set is going to be like, what are the ideas that are kind of percolating in the ether so to speak, right now, and how can I capitalize? So I could go to Grok because Grok has all that data. The primary source is going to be Twitter or X or whatever. Or do I want to go to Gemini because they have all the search data, all the trend data. They can see kind of where the puck is going. And then I want to say, like, these are my data sets. I'm coming to Lightning Rod because I want to make sense of this. And I want to have predictive value of like what the next big ideas are going to be that kind of fits within the other data set, which is like, what are my core strengths? What do I believe in? Like, am I the right person to bring it forward at this time? So would that be an opportunity that you could kind of build a tool that's going to predictively give us some outcomes that we can work on?
Yeah. So typically our customers fall into, I'd say, like two buckets, right? One bucket, we have a bunch of data and we don't know how to turn this into something we can train an AI model.
Yeah.
Right? We're working with one customer that wants to predict financial metrics, right? So they have all this data on these different companies and what they achieved in different quarters, right? But these are like dense company reports. This is not something you want to just feed into an AI model for supervised fine tuning and have it talk like that, right? So we can take that kind of data and help you turn it into something that you can train the AI. The other bucket is companies that, I want to train a model that does whatever, right? Maybe make predictions in the entertainment space, right? But I don't have any data whatsoever. How can I just generate data out of thin air that trains a model to be good at that, right? And in those cases, what we'll do is we'll make it really easy to pull data for you from, for example, public news sources, where we could look over all the news over the last couple of years and pull all the articles about different things happening in the entertainment world and use that to create a training data set that makes AI learn what's going on in this space and really understand that domain.
What's up, everybody? Let me hit you with some math that will blow your mind. A wealth manager using WarmStart.ai grew their assets under management by 8.5 million in 3 months. Their monthly fee, $500. That's a 1,700% return on investment in 3 months. And I get it, another AI tool, another monthly subscription. But here's what makes WarmStart different. It's not trying to find you new people to bug, it's helping you reconnect with people who already know you. As a founder, your biggest asset isn't your product or your website, it's your relationships. But most of us are terrible at nurturing them systematically. WarmStart connects your email, identifies warm contacts, and helps you craft personalized outreach that doesn't sound like a robot wrote it. The best part, you review every message before it goes out. No automation without permission. If you're ready to stop leaving money in your inbox, try WarmStart.ai. Use code AIFF for $50 off your first month because the ROI on your existing relationships is probably better than any investment you'll make this year. That's WarmStart.ai and use code AIFF. Now, you and I know startups aren't built in boardrooms. They're built in the wild, during 3 a.m. bug fixes, botched launches, and that one meeting where everything almost fell apart. That's what Code Story is all about. It's a podcast where tech founders break down the make or break moments behind their products, what went wrong, what went right, and what nearly wrecked everything. Hosted by Noah Labhart, Code Story goes past the highlight reel and into the honest stuff. Late pivots, brutal bugs, and somehow coming out alive with a product people actually love. If you're in the build stage, or the scale stage, or the please let this feature work stage, I can relate. This show will speak to your soul. Listen to Code Story at codestory.co or wherever you get your podcast. Just search Code Story, it'll be right at the top. Because great startups aren't born, they're forged, one hard moment at a time. codestory.co. Nice. So it's either people have the data or they need you to find it first and before you can create the operating tool.
That's right.
Had a great conversation with Mehul, and he does something similar, but largely what he's doing is like the data sets are literally locked in filing cabinets. Do you find something similar where it's like if it's a legal firm or something, and they're like, we have 50 years of case data and it's all on paper. I mean, is that something you run into?
We do not help with the part where we scan the paper itself. But we definitely deal with all sorts of messy digital formats. And yeah, that's something we help our enterprise customers out with.
Sure. Okay, great. So when we're talking about data sets, maybe bring a little something more concrete. Is this like sales and marketing information? Is it Slack channels? Is it, your Google Workspace emails? What are some popular data points?
Yeah. So, I mean, the model that we kind of came into the scene with was a forecasting model, where we just wanted to show that this works really well. even when we don't have some sort of special data advantage. So using mostly just public news data, data that, all the big frontier models have been trained on and have access to, we were able to kind of play this game, right? We're given one point in time, make AI try to predict what's going to happen by the next point in time, and use that process to train a model that was actually better at making predictions about the future than all the big frontier models, right? And we measure this by having them all place a bunch of bets on Polymarket, and our model was able to be more accurate and produce more profit and produce better calibrated probabilities than all the models we compared it to, right? And this is a tiny model just trained on this public data. So that's one example. Some concrete examples of companies that we're working with. There's the financial metrics company that I just mentioned. For another one, we're trying to predict the outcome of clinical trials. So given this proposal and given this experiment setup, what's the likelihood that this drug is going to make it to market in the next, let's say, 24 months or something like that? We're working on predicting the likelihood of flights being disrupted by getting a delay that's going to be at least a couple hours long. We're working with other healthcare companies to just train models that they won't actually be making predictions in their usage, but we're just going to use this kind of predictive process to train a model that really understands whatever specific healthcare problem that company is running.
Cool.
So
And
that's a couple examples.
that might be the evidence of like the intelligence of the training data itself, is that it's able to predict so that it really understands it essentially.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, at the end of the day, prediction really is like the best test of intelligence, right? Like you have an expert that can explain to you why something happened the way it happened, or if the market's crashing, everyone has a reason why the market's crashing, right? But if you really understand what's going on, if you actually have a better idea of the causal factors here, better than me, you should be able to predict it.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone can explain it after the fact.
Yeah.
Should I think of this as like MCPs?
We use NCP. So we can train models to not just reason over the information that they're given, but learn how to ask for the right information, how to use different tools to get to the best prediction. I mean, the nice thing about this game is it's quite general, right? So you can kind of train models to learn whatever patterns help you make better predictions.
Yeah. You brought up Polymarket, and that you're beating Polymarket. What's your take on that? This is a little bit of a divergence here, but like, what's your take on Polymarket and just this, like, I'll just leave it there. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have mixed feelings about it. I kind of love prediction markets personally. Like, I think it's a great way to kind of train yourself, right? Like, even making small bets, if you don't, take it too far, it really forces you to put your beliefs down on paper and then realize when you're right or when you're wrong, which is great for calibrating your own confidence about things in the world. I think you learn a lot by paying attention to how well do I actually do when I put my money down on things. On the other end, I do think a lot of people have a gambling problem, and explosion of a new way to gamble is probably not going to help with that.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, that's just the kind of downside. You're right. It's like, put your money where your mouth is, and like, are you really interested in learning? Well, here's a great incentive to do it.
Yeah.
But it seems to be, and I'll put it out there, I'm a Chauncey Billups fan because I'm a Denver guy. So to see what's going on with the NBA and like all of that, and that this is just going to extend indefinitely in all directions now, particularly because all those gaming platforms are getting into kind of Polymarket type stuff too, because why not? Why not just bet on sports when I can bet on, is my newspaper going to get delivered today or whatever, I really like it. I don't have a gambling problem. So it's just like a novelty. If I pop something open and I want to, look at like, who's going to have a larger November Nvidia or Apple, or, like, all right, it's kind of silly and fun, but it seems to be detrimental to culture in some way.
For sure. I mean, the incentives that make prediction markets work well are both kind of a blessing and a curse, right? It's a blessing in that, like, there's such a strong incentive that if someone has information, they should place a bet and share that information with the rest of us, right? We can all look at Polymarket and get the best odds on who's going to win an election. But it's also a curse because now a lot of people have an incentive to place bets on things that they probably shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. Interesting. Okay. We're going to talk about you a little bit. One thing that's kind of striking about your website is there's you have your hero section, then right under there is just the founders, and it's you and Danny. And both of you guys have had like looks like several exits and really solid careers and have a lot of experience in machine learning, automation, AI. You've been working on this for some time. When you're thinking about like developing this, and would it be accurate to say this is kind of like a service as a software? Do you feel like this is a productized service? How would you kind of, what's the business model?
Yeah. So until now, these have been pretty much internal tools that we've been using to train models for our enterprise customers. And these have been mostly like bigger enterprise deals. What I'm really excited about now is we're actually about to launch an SDK and basically make this a self-serve developer first product that anyone can use to train better AI.
Amazing.
It'll be like swipe a credit card, just pay for what you use. And this framework that we found to be really effective for generating high quality training data, we're going to bring it to everyone. So I guess that it's to say our business model is changing quickly, but in the near future, I hope for it to be very much developer first and a much more scaled model.
Incredible. So yeah, and then what does go to market look like for that? Do you rebrand? What are exactly are you planning?
Yeah, I mean, so one insight here was just that our champions at all of our big customers were people who understood machine learning and had some Python experience themselves. And I think you just you need that experience to understand the differentiation here and like what we're bringing to the table. And so when we realized that, we just realized it probably makes a lot more sense to go developer first and attack the communities where these people are, right? So
Yeah.
Hugging Face, GitHub, go after the Python Reddits and groups like this. And so, yeah, I mean, that kind of informed our strategy, and we're kind of packaging up all of our best practices into this framework that we're hoping to release in the next couple of weeks.
Cool. Do you raise around that, or how, or have you raised for the project so far?
So we raised a bit over 2 years ago, our most recent round. We haven't raised like on that kind of new developer first direction. My approach is if we don't need to raise, I'd rather first launch and improve the traction and then raise on that. And we'll probably do a much better round if we can make that happen. And right now we're in a good place from a runway perspective. So that seemed to be the right approach.
Tremendous. Cool. Moving into kind of this SDK kind of format. Who do you see is going to be your first clients, or who could benefit most, you think, from this?
I mean, I think Python developers either within big enterprises or at startups or even just indie developers will kind of love a product like this. One thing I think is Python and like machine learning engineers are very different than your average software engineer. And so if you pitch Hugging Face to your average software engineer a couple of years ago, the average software engineer would be like, this is just cloud storage. Like, why would this be a product? But Python guys, and I know because this is my background, this is what I did at Google before starting a startup. We don't really like dealing with infrastructure, and we don't really like worrying about servers or about signing up for different APIs. We want to work in our notebooks and play with the data and just be able to measure what we want to measure as quickly as possible. So a lot of what we're doing here is abstracting away a lot of the work of having to build a complicated data infrastructure yourself and making it really easy as a Python or machine learning guy to just get going. Just give me the data I need to train the model that I want to train.
Yeah. Which do you think will be kind of the bigger winner, the actually going and retrieving the data or incorporating existing data?
That's a good question. I think it will depend on the kind of developer. I think for startups and indie developers often don't have, new startups and indie developers often don't have data sets. Yeah. And so being able to generate something on the fly from like public news or SEC documents or something like that is really valuable just for getting a project off the ground. Big enterprises tend to have the opposite problem. So they actually have tons of data. It's just not at all in a good format for training or evaluating LLMs. And if you can just drop all this data somewhere and have that happen for you, that's kind of magical.
100%. Man, I can't stop thinking about medical scenarios. I think actually like personal data is what I'm most interested in. Yeah. And I suppose because it's most valuable to me. If you're thinking about data sets, what are the most valuable data sets right now across the board? If you were to unplug.
I mean, look, I also love the medical use case. And if there's anything if I could make a medical data set appear out of nowhere that we could play with, like I would love that.
Yeah.
Just because I think predicting medical outcomes
Yeah.
would be such a powerful kind of modeling. You'd probably make scientific discoveries in that process of even just training a model that was better at predicting medical outcomes than what we can do today. That's going to be a really hard data set to get, and I don't even know all the regulations that would have to be broken to make that happen. But yeah, I mean, I would love to make that happen one day.
Yeah, the medical applications too, and I've spoke to some founders, they're doing amazing things. And the problem is that it comes with increased data comes with increased liability. So you have all this data that's available now, you have potentially predictive or, prescriptive, like recommendations from LLMs, definitely into the future. But if a doctor receives that information and then doesn't make the necessary or appropriate prescriptions, then they're held liable. They could be sued for that. So this is just kind of like one of the weird kind of compliance, like growing pains that's kind of compiling very quickly. And maybe where it's most concerning to me is because medical industry is just notoriously slow, on everything, and maybe for good reason. But like, if we're sitting on like a gold mine of information, let's say there's some kind of gold capped tooth I could put into my mouth and it smells my breath and it knows exactly what my iron is or whatever, there's going to be all kinds of massive data. And the doctors are like, we cannot do anything with that because if you send me that information, now suddenly I'm liable for any potential outcome down the road. So maybe there's opportunity there where you have people that aren't necessary doctors and you get into kind of like the kind of like medical care for the healthy, actual health care, not sick care, where it's like, okay, we can take these biostamps, we can predict that these are some potential outcomes. They're pretty good at that already, and then like, here's some things you can do to supplement you
Yeah, I
non-consensually
mean,
by your Apple Watch.
I think what you're pointing out is like a real problem, right? Which is that the most important domains are where we kind of ask for the most regulation, right? Because it's important. So we need to, have guardrails to make sure things don't go off the rails. But they're also important, which means we need the most innovation to help solve those problems, right? And so healthcare is definitely this place where we have all these regulations. A lot of them are there for good reasons, but especially now with the power that AI is bringing to really disrupt the way we solve a lot of problems. Man, it would be a shame if AI couldn't come in and do the things that we know it could do, just because all these regulations get in the way. So there might be a new balance or some new way we need to start thinking about these problems.
Yeah. Elon will figure it out,
I
you
sure
know.
hope so.
Maybe in order to get like your Tesla medical prescription is going to be some stack of papers that you're like signing away your life to some doctor in the Cayman Islands or whatever. I mean, there'll be some kind of weird workaround like that. How about you? When you're looking in the future, 5 years down the road, what's really exciting to you?
I mean, I think there's a ton to be excited about. There's a ton to be worried about. I think just we cannot possibly even begin to understand how much, things are going to change over the next couple of years. Um, as a founder and a creator, like I already feel like the ability of AI to just make execution so much easier is like incredible. Like the gap between having an idea and making it materialize in some way or testing it is just getting smaller and smaller. So I just think there's going to be this explosion of creativity.
Yeah.
In education, right? People, there's such a barrier now to learn about all these things that you used to need to go to school to take all these classes or get the right professors to educate yourself on different subjects. And I think that's all disappearing. So I just think we're going to see a lot more people doing a lot more interesting things because the friction involved is going away.
Yeah, and there's a curiosity. This is kind of a predictive kind of element too that's like really important with LLMs when I'm really like kind of in the pocket and really having fun with these models, which is usually like, Gemini 3 comes out and they're like, oh, it beat all the benchmarks. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to hit it with my shtick and just start like talking to it, asking it weird questions, asking it to bring disparate things together in some kind of narrative that makes sense, you know? And that's really fun. I think that like one thing I talk to my kids about is, they're great for using LLMs as a tool. Like, hey, how do I do this math problem? And it'll walk you through step by step, which is great. How do I translate this into French? Boom, it can do it in 2 seconds, which is great too. But like, then it just becomes like, I have a problem, give me the solution, as opposed to going it with kind of a curious mind of like, what problems should I be thinking about? You know what I mean? Like kind of giving up creative agency because it's really good at kind of like presenting you with kind of an uncarved block and allowing you to kind of chisel away if you're not so certain with the answer that you're trying to get out of it. You're not like, it's not this to this to this, So I wonder too, like how much better it's going to get, because it really seems like the LLMs are still in kind of in infancy. I mean, maybe not that. They might be in like third or fourth grade now. But like once they're seniors in high school, to just hold the metaphor here, or they're in grad school and like now they're way smarter than me, and it feels like the way I want to interact with the LLMs is going to need to change, in order to get the best out of it, in order for it to create all these really interesting creative solutions, because it has the ability to like pull so much together. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, one thing that I love doing is kind of flipping it around and asking the AI to ask me questions. So it's really easy to like listen to a podcast or an audiobook and think you understand things, unless you're being quizzed on it, kind of. I love like taking some idea and telling the AI to like quiz me to check my understanding. Let's find the holes and then explain to me like what I don't really understand. And that's a much more effective way for me to learn than just, hey, tell me about this thing and me acting like I registered all those tokens.
Totally. Yeah, I know. Somebody else told me about that, like to always follow your prompts with like, and ask me 3 questions to like better understand what I'm trying to get at here, because a lot of times it's through the back door that you get the best answers, you
Yes.
know. Cool. I want to talk to you about your co-founder because it looks like both of your previous companies, you were involved with them. This is a new company. What's the dynamic and relationship like with your co-founder?
Yeah, I mean, we've worked together for a really long time, almost 8 years now.
Yeah.
And we've always worked on these kind of mission-driven AI first products together. So the first thing we worked on together was actually, while part of Google, I founded a company called Rivet within Area 120. That was a reading app for kids. They use the AI to listen while kids read out loud to the app and give them feedback on the reading. Danny came on board to lead the engineering team. And we kind of hit it off, and I think we made a great team, and we've kind of just kept working together since then. When I decided to leave Google and start a startup, he was the first person I asked to be my CTO, and he was excited to come on board. And so, yeah, I mean, we've been working together for a long time, and it's a good dynamic.
What do you think is the attributes of that dynamic? What makes it good? What makes it challenging?
I think, we balance each other out in important ways, I think. I can be very creative and be a little all over the place and be very quick to abstract ideas. And Danny's very good at like kind of bringing it back down to earth. Like, okay, concretely, what should like the input here be, and what are we gonna get on the other side, kind of thing. We disagree really well. I think that's really important for co-founders. I think we're just both emotionally mature, and if there's a disagreement, like I genuinely want to understand why he disagrees with me, and he tends to do the same. And so, we're never just like yelling at each other or something like that. And, we've never really had something where we didn't end up aligning after talking about it.
Yeah.
Like where we had to be like, I'm making the call for us. That I don't think that's ever happened. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we balance each other out well, and we seem to be able to disagree in a productive way, to get on the same page.
I'm always interested if there's some great secret, but ultimately I think it's just like any good relationship. It's like, it's just kind of easy. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Cool.
think that's right. And then I think, people have different superpowers, and I think we both kind of respect each other's abilities that we bring to the table, right? So I've never seen an engineer like Danny. He's just able to whip things up and understand how you could tie things together to make something happen really quickly. And yeah, I don't know. It just works.
Cool. Amazing. We are about to enter the lightning round. Are you ready?
Hey, I guess so. Let's do it.
Okay, let's go. Okay, so what's most unsettling about AI for you right now? And you've been amazing guest to letting me like go in all these weird directions, but like if there's something unsettling, what sticks out for you right now?
Well, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of disruption and it will be uncomfortable, to say the least, I think. I don't think as a society we're having the conversations we probably need to be having about like what does society look like when there's literally nothing I can do better than a machine. Right. If that's not happening next year, it's probably happening in 20 years. And I don't think that's like the industrial revolution. A lot of people like to make that comparison, but there were plenty of things the machines still couldn't do at the end of the industrial revolution. And so I think, that's going to be a problem. And we're really going to need to think about like what gives us value as members of a society and what do we want to do with our time to make this a worthwhile experience when we don't need to work and kind of earn our keep that way.
It's interesting. I kind of think that like we'll have to learn from like the classic aristocracy. And I only say that because I remember I was watching some stupid dating show years ago, and there it was like this Italian duke or something like that. This beautiful man, unbelievable hair. Like just he was incredible. And he was always getting so frustrated because he's like, Americans, they all want to know like what do you do? Like we really like it doesn't matter who you are in the social strata. It's like, oh, what do you do? And he was offended by that because he didn't have anything to do. He's getting fitted for suits and like going to balls or whatever. I mean, I don't know what aristocracy does, but what they do is they have more of a refined taste, I suppose. I mean, so it's like if and I would love to think it's optimistic to think we're moving in that direction, where what we have to do isn't necessarily what defines us as people, rather it's kind of like the attitude and culture we cultivate, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that sounds nice. I hope
That
that's what.
sounds nice. 100%. Okay. Like I said, like the audience loves business ideas. Do you have any like interesting ideas rattling around that you'd like to bring to life at some point?
Ooh. Yeah, I always have a bunch of random ideas. I don't know if they're any good.
The bad ones are the best.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think we still don't have an AI experience that's kind of where the AI sets the stage, right? It's very the user prompt first still. And I would love personally something where I put on my headphones and the AI is just going to talk to me about things I want to talk about, but it's an interactive experience and I'm learning. And just like TikTok or something like that, it's kind of adjusting the algorithm based on, when I seem bored or when I seem uninterested or whatever. I think someone should nail that experience and I'll use that when someone does
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really interested in that too, like and I wonder if voice is the ultimate application, typing, I'm kind of like, I don't want to type if I don't have to. It seems half-baked. Talking to it, maybe. I really am just waiting for the day when I can kind of use like maybe involuntary things that I do physically or somatically and just like create shortcuts with those or like if I wiggled my ears it would make a sandwich or something like that. I think we are working into kind of some kind of God realm where we're going to be able to program the world around us to our suiting, to the I'm excited about that.
Yeah. When it's easier to kind of make the input and output easier than even talking or like typing. And it can just
Totally.
read our brains or something like that. That'll be both exciting and scary.
Yeah. What would be a game changer client if you could have the a client that has the most incredible data set you'd love to work with them? Who would that be?
Well, we've been working on getting clients in the DoD. Um, and we'd love to make some headway there. It's obviously a tough time to be doing that for a number of reasons, but I think like when it comes to like forecasting risk and geopolitical risk is one of the most interesting things that we can do, and we've shown that our models are really good at that. And so I'd love to put that to use in a way that actually makes people safer and maybe makes our government more responsive to threats.
Doesn't that seem like unbelievably scary?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might as well just go all the way in. If we're talking about the DoD, and if you had some classified information about the UAPs, what would be your recommendation? Or actually, how could the government, who seems like they're going full disclosure at some point, what do you think the predictive model would be to release disclosure documents?
Like, what's the likelihood that those get disclosed?
No, like how should they do it? So you'd need a predictive model to be like, well, if you do it like this, then that, then this, then that, because it seems like they whatever model they're running on disclosure, it seems to be doing a pretty good job because it just seems to be seeping in. I don't know.
Right. Like, yeah, like somehow they released information in a way where it's no longer mind blowing that there are these UAPs everywhere and they're
Yeah.
around like nuclear sites and military sites. And we've kind of accepted that without going like, holy shit, what? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. Maybe someone's really thinking about that.
It was like 4 or 5 years ago where the Pope was like, you know what? If there's things outside of the earth, Jesus loves them too. I'm like, whoa, wait, what? What?
Yeah.
Why are you saying that? That seems like a little out of the blue. You know, I don't know. Nice. How about other entrepreneurs or CEOs that you follow closely or admire? Anybody come to mind?
Well, I think I have to say Benjamin Franklin because he invented the lightning rod.
Nice.
Obviously, exactly that kind of scientist, innovator, entrepreneur that I think we like to be more like.
100%. Plus, he might have had some of the original podcasts. I always think about Ben Franklin in the French salons with his coonskin hat, hamming it up for the gals over there.
Yeah, that's right.
I love that guy. Amazing. How about founder-led marketing? I kind of got halfway through that question. When you get to your website, first thing you see is the two founders. Why is it important that you're so front and center in your business right now?
Well, I think you're looking at the about page. Um,
Oh, am I on the about page?
I think so.
Oh, I am. How dare I?
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I actually think that's an interesting line to walk.
Mhm.
It's definitely, something we've been trying out. I try to post on LinkedIn and be a bit more active on places like Twitter and things like that. And that's definitely something some founders have a lot of success with. I also think it can definitely be a distraction
Yeah.
and it can make it more about you and less about the product sometimes. So I don't know. I think it's, something we're experimenting with. It's a line that I think we have to learn to walk. But it's certainly nice to be able to, put information out there. And when you get a group of supporters that is kind of a fan of what you're doing, which we've definitely found in the forecasting community,
Yeah.
that's a huge asset.
100%. Cool. As we're kind of wrapping it up here, we like to give shout outs to charitable organizations. And you mentioned one that I really like too, which is MAPS, the Multi Association of Psychedelic Studies, Multidisciplinarian Association of Psychedelic Studies. Why is that interesting to you?
Oh, I just think the early studies on using psychedelics for mental health are incredibly promising.
Yeah.
And we've kind of only demonized and made these things illegal for weird historical reasons that I think everyone agrees now makes no sense. And so if there's one thing that I think could alleviate a ton of suffering in the world really quickly and also help normal people learn more about themselves and lead more fulfilling lives, it's probably making psychedelics go mainstream. So, I don't know. I'm just a big fan of what they're doing over there.
It's really interesting how psychedelics have reemerged into the culture in the last 10, 15 years in like a very clinical way. I don't think psychedelics ever went anywhere too far. Well, I mean, I live next to Red Rock, so I know they didn't. But it's interesting that the therapeutic aspects, particularly as we're talking about what you had said, which is like we're all going to have to reassess like what's my meaning if machines can do everything better than I can. So we have to shift kind of like our personal identity to what I do to like how I am in the world. And that's one thing that like the role of the shaman and with their satchel of psychedelics, I think have always brought humanity. And I mean, there's examples, whether it's Soma or it's, kykeon, or like there's all these like kind of like mythological substances that cultures, like big civilizations, were using to help people connect with themselves in certain ways, experience the world a little bit different, maybe find some new appreciation. And I don't think it's necessarily like coincidence that like as we're kind of bringing these machines that can maybe greatly like enhance our or take away the beast of burden from all the tasks we do, that also is emerging these like different applications, different techniques for all kinds of different religious backgrounds or medical backgrounds to help people connect to how they are in the world, because this will be a skill I think they'll really need, you know? So, I mean, for folks that don't know about MAPS and Rick Doblin, like the studies they're putting out, you know, these are clinical, you know, I mean, placebo-based tests with psychedelics is kind of ridiculous. Um,
Totally.
you're like, I'm pretty sure I got the dose.
Yeah. Very hard to pick it.
But you know, particularly for people that aren't known for substances, you know, which would be like, let's say, religious people or military people, just the results are like unbelievable. So, you know, they're doing really good work and they're really fighting the good fight. So, shout out to those guys.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think you're onto something there. There seems to be some connection with where we're going as a society and with technology and AI. And if you look through history, like a lot of cultures use these things for coming of age ceremonies and finding your place and adapting to change and accepting changes in your life that, you know, that accepting whatever changes in your life you need to learn to settle with. And I think we're going to go through a lot of change in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
We're going to start needing to figure out how we reincorporate those kind of ceremonies and find our place. So maybe
Yeah.
the age of the psychedelics again.
Yeah. And, you know, one of I think the most prominent studies that they did were people at end of life. You know, you got a terminal case, you only got so many weeks, days, months to live. And the anxiety and stress and depression that goes along with that is it's like an onion, you know, because on one side, oh, we're all kind of scared to die, but on the other side, you're like, oh, I'm deteriorating and I'm a burden on my family. And you have like all of these different layers, so that, you know, basically what they found is that, you know, people that were using some of these methodologies were more comfortable. They were comforted as they were dying. Now that's a very visceral the end of life, which we'll all face someday, but we are kind of coming to the end of, you know, how we used to live. You know, there's going to be a death and a rebirth. So it'll be interesting if kind of like there's going to be a similar onion of pain, you know, because as, you know, each of our industries are disrupted to some place or another, maybe it takes 10 years for me, and maybe it took 1 year for somebody else. We'll all have to kind of unpack all of these like various pain and suffering to get to a place where we're potentially at peace. So I'm really glad that you brought up MAPS, and people can check that out. It's maps.org.
Awesome.
Cool. The website is lightningrod.ai. Ben, what's the best place for people to connect with you online?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter at B Turtel. And I have a Substack, Turtles All the Way Down.
Love it. Probably my favorite song from oh boy, what's his name? Oh man, I got turkey brain. I shouldn't have eaten that Little Caesars pizza, I tell you what. Country Guy. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Turtles all down country. This is embarrassing. Sturgill Simpson, of course. Great song.
I'll have to give it a listen.
Great principle. Cool. Ben, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. Great chatting with you.
This episode is brought to you by MoBurst, the AI-first growth engine trusted by iconic startups like Calm, Robinhood, Reddit, Uber, and Google. MoBurst is a digital full-service mobile-first marketing agency that helps companies to scale and become category leaders. Whether you're finding product market fit or ready to accelerate growth, MoBurst delivers creative, data-driven solutions that help with scale and efficiency and impact. At MoBurst, we're not just guessing what works, we're predicting it. As an AI-first agency, MoBurst uses cutting-edge tools to analyze user behavior, adapt creative in real time, and uncover hidden growth opportunities. The result? Marketing that's faster, smarter, and built to convert. From early-stage startups to global brands, we've helped hundreds of companies overcome complex challenges, unlock new audiences, and optimize every metric that matters. At MoBurst, we believe that creative thinking, advanced technology, and data are the core drivers of success at scale. If you're serious about scaling your business with precision and purpose, it's time to talk to MoBurst. Visit moburst.com and let's build something category-defining together.